Hey guys, welcome back to Getting Creative With, our weekly segment where AADL staff gets creative with an arbitrarily chosen theme to stay playful. They make games, crafts, pieces of art, artifacts, things of that nature. And this week's theme is print. And today we have Christopher, Aurora, Amanda, Lauren, and myself, Ksenia. So you guys, print making, block printing, fingerprints, fine print. There are so many ways to think about the word print, the theme print. What do you got, Christopher?
Well, what do I have? Not much. As far as what I had to work with, I had a potato because I didn't have anything to cut linoleum block, and I didn't have any linoleum block, and I didn't have a lot of paint or ink, but I do have beads. So I was thinking about something that really brings me joy, and when I go to art museums, I love all different kinds of art, but one kind of simple design that I really like are just dots. And so I pulled a beet out of the garden this morning, and I thought I would experiment with trying out some milkweed sap to thicken it, which did not work. That's okay. I like failures. But I cooked it down, and I ended up with a pretty thick beet juice. And then I did find a little paint. So I just made this, and it was something that made me happy. So let's see if you can see it.
Yeah.
There we go. And you can see the beet juice was actually one of my favorite parts of it, as opposed to the acrylic paint that I found. And I just repeated it, and I like it. I chose colors that I enjoyed. So that was my experiment with printing. And now I know that milkweed sap is not very effective at thickening beet juice. Don't bother Googling that.
How did you choose milkweed sap? Was that something that you heard would thicken it before? Or were you just like, hey, that sounds like it would maybe make beet juice thicker?
Well, I do so many different crafts with milkweed, and I have it growing all over my yard, and I know it is it's really sticky, and it is a kind of thickener. It's also toxic. So I just thought I would try it, and it doesn't really work. Just cooking beet juice down on the stove is the best way. And I was surprised at how thick and how deep the color was when I applied it to the paper.
Yeah.
So it's my story this week.
Awesome.
I love the stories.
I forget how this works. Sorry, Ksenia. Are we to ask questions like whenever? Or
No questions.
No.
Questions.
No questions of Christopher ever. He just talks.
Okay.
We just
All right. Okay. I sense that we can. I have a couple. So first, could you hold that up again, Christopher? It's super beautiful. I want to be sure to tell you that first off. And
Thanks.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Thanks.
So the red is the juicy beet juice.
Yep, right there and right there. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And you squeeze the beet. Okay, I have a question now. Like, how did you create the beet juice?
So I just plucked a beet, and I kind of just took wedges of it out as small as I could. I could have just cut it on a cutting board like a normal person, but beets are so juicy, I didn't want to lose all that juice that was going to come out of the beet when I was cutting it up. So this way I got everything into the pan. I could have just grated it, and then that would be great too. Then all the juice would be out. Adding milkweed was just stupid.
Well, you were experimenting with nature and pigments, so
I
think that sounds awesome.
is all about experimentation. It's great.
Yeah.
Poisonous substances, beets is fantastic.
Mhm.
Oh my God.
it was fun.
And then, so what did you use to make the circles? Did the dots?
Oh, sorry. I just cut a little potato in half.
Okay, that's what the potato was for.
Right, and it was mostly round, not quite round, and I kind of like that actually.
Yeah.
It was just slightly elliptical, and the one thing I did do though is I wanted to get fairly straight columns and rows, and so I just used a ruler to make little X's on the page where the center of each dot should go.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
And one more thing, has the beet faded at all since you've printed it?
No, it is dark red, burgundy colored. I'm amazed at how deep it is. So it made me think we should all do a program with natural dyes and experiment with that, and I might pitch that to the library.
Yes.
So
Preach. I'm trying to make my own pigment with the little lake rocks that I've been finding. So that's going, ? Cool. Thank you so much for that
You
bit
bet.
of joy. That's gorgeous. I love it. Aurora, you are up next. What did you do to get creative with print?
So I thought about what should I use, just like Christopher. It's very limited material. So if you know my past couple projects, we reuse a lot of the material, sticks and other stuff. So I read somewhere that you could try to use styrofoam. So I use styrofoam to make my plate. And then, so you trace it, your prints on styrofoam, and then you put, I try to use a pen, like they said, around the edge to give you an outline, but it doesn't quite work well. So I use, go back into with a chopstick that makes it even bigger, deeper cut. So my first print that I did was not successful, like Christopher. This one was a little bit, first print, it's a little bit too wet, so I tried it less water, because what happened, you have to put water on the paper, and this one's too dry. And then I thought maybe I should use a thinner paper. So that didn't work either. I used a thinner paper. That didn't quite work out. And then I thought, okay, I really wet the paper and then print it on and rub it on. That's too wet. So finally, last try, I got a little more successful. Before I show it, so what happened is the idea is to put markers on these. And then it will, when you put the wet paper on top of it, it will show more of the colors. So that's how you get your prints out. And so this is the final one that I'm happy with. And that is print with the markers, which is kind of interesting because the mark on the phone doesn't show very bright, but when you print it on the paper, it was. So I'm happy with this one. So that will be my final print.
But that's really cool.
The trial and errors and
yeah, that's amazing.
What did you just use, like a Crayola marker or?
Just any water-based marker.
Okay.
That's what I did to color different colors on here. And then you wet the surface that you want to print it on, and then you lay it down and you rub it down, and then you just peel it.
That's really cool. When you first said you were going to print with styrofoam, I was thinking like the styrofoam that kids use like in art class, where you etch into a styrofoam and then you roll ink on it one color and then they pull the print and you just have the white line show. So I totally thought that's where you were going, but that's amazing.
Yeah, I saw this. I thought, oh, I could give it a try, but it took some time to get it where I want it to be, but it's fun.
Aurora, that styrofoam looks so thin.
Yeah, I just you know, like sometimes food tray they come with, I just cut it square because usually it's like a tray. So I just cut it to use. I mean, it's just any size styrofoam that you could find from meat product or any product in grocery store, and you just cut it to size to use.
Wow. And then you used to start with like a ballpoint pen to press down, and that just gives you your borders.
No, well, that's what they, well, usually you start with an image. I have a sketch already and I put it on top and I draw over it. So that give me an imprint so I could draw a black line so I could see it. That should be done. But because I don't know the paper I'm using or whatever the reason, it didn't groove in deep enough. So I had to go back to the service to with a chopstick, point chopstick, to give it a bigger groove, to give it more of the white in between the colors.
Oh, right. Okay. Yep. Wow.
It's just stellar. I'm like blown away, Aurora, by like how intricate your design is. Like for a print, that's just crazy detailed and great. And I mean, you just pulled so many proofs and you like fine-tuned your whole operation. I'm really in awe. I was kind of enjoying not only watching you present, but of course, this is like the story of my life on Zoom. I was watching people's reactions, you know, above you. And Christopher, your face as Aurora was presenting, it was kind of like in disbelief, like, what?
So cool.
Bravo, Aurora.
Thank you.
Oh, what a process. That's so cool. Yeah, like Lauren said, this just finding the right, I don't know, the right wetness, the right moisture content, the right material for it. Yeah, wow. That's really, really just detailed. Amazing. Cool. How did you choose the image? Where did that come from?
I just thought something that my grandkid might enjoy. My granddaughters like Japanese, so I thought it would be nice to, if I finish, I could give it to her. You know, Japanese, what they call the kishidao, the Japanese dao. So that's what I thought.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you so much for that. That's just gorgeous. And yeah, knowing what went into it makes it even better too.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, it looks like according to this list, I am up next, and I did some foraging myself, Christopher, out in my garden.
Oh.
Because I really wanted to try botanical printing. So I went and got some Rose of Sharon and some sage and leaves and stuff out like that. And I have this really beautiful called Pink Passion Chard, and I hammered it on paper, and it didn't work very well. So I figured, okay, well, maybe try something else. And I went online and found that I could use dye, so iron oxide to dye the paper, and use leaves as a resist and as another pigment. So I found an old rusty card jack in our garage. I went out and picked some sage leaves, some red Japanese maple, some other sorts of petals and grasses and leaves and things. And I layered these objects and this flora in my my watercolor paper. And then I rolled that up really tightly around a stick and bundled it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I dropped that into simmering water, to which I added about 1/4 cup of vinegar, dunked in an entire rusty card jack, because that's supposed to dye it, and the vinegar is supposed to get the rust, the iron oxide off of the jack. And then I put a brick on top of that bundle to keep it from floating up.
Mm-hmm.
And I simmered it for about an hour. And to watch the natural pigments come out after I unrolled it and flattened it was really cool. So I have a variety here. My sage leaves.
Wow. Okay.
I have some lilac leaves here that bled into another layer of Rose of Sharon that I had. I have these interesting negatives of the leaves too on
That's
the back
cool.
of the paper. And have some of these these little like bleeding lines and stuff where the paper, as you can see, like didn't really roll very tightly. because I was using a twig from the garden, not like a rolling pin or a dowel. And just like these really cool ghostly prints of rows of Sharon petals that I have. And I liked arranging the leaves and the petals quite a bit, but I also enjoyed that I didn't have every bit of the project in my own control. So it was cool to see once I unrolled everything and peeled the leaves back, how the iron oxide affected the natural dyes in the plants, which is why I was like, yes, Christopher, natural dyes all the way. That's all I've been doing all week. So it was just cool to see how that affected the natural dyes in the leaves that I chose. And it was just a fun experiment. And I put sage in here and it smelled so good while it was boiling. So yeah, I think these will be turned into little greeting cards or prints and just to hang around the kitchen maybe, that sort of thing. So super fun to do.
Fabulous.
So you didn't boil the paper, right?
I boiled the paper. I bundled the leaves and rolled it up around a stick in the paper.
Right.
So I sandwiched them all together. And then, yeah, I rolled it up and then I dropped the little bundle into boiling water for about an hour.
And it didn't disintegrate?
No, I used really heavy weight, like 100, not really heavy, but like it was multimedia, like heavyweight, 150-pound watercolor paper.
Okay.
And it didn't rip at all. And it just, yeah, the color kept very well. So no fading.
Huh. God, that's cool.
It's really cool. I've got to admit, Ksenia, that like you lost me in your description of your process at Carjack. Like you went in. I was like, okay, where does this go? I lost the thread. I hope, like, maybe, I don't know if it's possible to you know, in post-production here, just take a picture of your whole setup. I mean, I'm like just trying to wrap my head around what all went into this. It's amazing.
No, that's really cool. I really admire the natural pigments and just trial and error.
Yeah. Again, like you guys, I'm working with limited materials, so I'm like, I don't really have ink around at the moment, but I do have a bunch of natural resources and an old rusty card jack that'll work. Just need some iron oxide.
So what did you do with the card jack?
I stuck it in the boiling water as the pigments, as the leaves were being boiled in the water themselves. So that is supposed to leave an imprint, and it's also supposed to help draw out some of the natural pigments of the leaves and the grasses.
Okay.
So yeah, I had no idea it was going to work, honestly, because I've dyed with rust before, just like using plates, but I've never just sort of used it as a magical dye stick in a boiling pot of water.
So cool.
Wow.
Eco printing all the way, y'all.
I don't know if the library is going to be able to order, 30 rusty card jacks for a program. So that's pretty awesome.
You can get a good bulk deal, I'm sure, from Advanced Auto Parts.
I have to start scouring the junkyards.
Yeah, I felt like a little bit of a weirdo asking like people like, hey, do you guys have any like rusty bits of metal? Like a little like creeper in a brush, but found one.
You should have one ready for Halloween and bake over cauldrons and have everybody does their craft of leaves and throw it in there with your rusty.
Ooh.
Yeah, a giant themed. I love it. I did feel a little bit like I was making a potion while I was doing this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my botanical print. And Amanda, you are up next. What did you make for us today?
Well, I did not a ton of experimenting. I did not make my own pigments. I feel like I cheated. So when I saw the topic of print, I was immediately drawn to it because I'm a printmaker myself and I love block printing on paper and block printing on fabric. So I thought, cool, I'll sign up and I'll go to my box and pull out a brand new block and carve a new image and make some prints. But I pulled out my box and I have, after years of block printing, I have a ton of blocks that I've carved. And I was going through my box and there were some that I've totally neglected or barely used. So I decided to dig through my box and pull out one. And the one I pulled out is this cute little image of these little books. It kind of looks like someone's like, is that lockers? I'm like, no, it's not. It's supposed to be books. And I just use this Speedy Carve. It's a speedball. I think it's called Speedy Carve. It's like the pink one. There's pink, beige, blue. I like the pink because I can use it for printing on fabric and on paper with different kinds of inks, and they both work. So I pulled out these little books. I thought that would be cute for us. And then I have like all the traditional block printing stuff at home. So I used a regular brayer. And I use this to put my ink on. And then the ink I use, I have a lot of ink. I totally cheated because I have like 50 things of ink. I just use Speedball brand block printing ink, and it's water-based. And I don't use this for my fabric prints, but I love it on paper. And it lasts a long time. So I put my ink on my tray, and I rolled my ink out. And then I had my block, and then I rolled the ink on my block. And then I like putting the blocks face down on paper and then pulling the block up. Some people like putting their paper on top of the block, but I put it face down on my paper, and then when I lifted it up, I came up with a cute little prints.
Oh, nice.
And I really liked the black on white. And I've never printed this on paper before. I've only done it on fabric, but I really, really like it on paper. So I just printed, I had some like half sheets of paper, and I just printed it this way so I could make little note cards. So I made a cute little set of little note cards with little envelopes, and I made a bunch of them. So I'm going to send them to people. I think they're really cute. So yeah. So I feel like I really cheated. I didn't do a ton of experimenting. And I had a ton of ink, but yeah, I really like my little books. And I was glad I was inspired to go to my box and use a block I've never used, because I would not have put this on paper, because I did this a while ago, and I'm doing newer things that I printed recently, or making all new blocks, period. So yeah, so there we are.
Oh, wow.
Such crisp lines. Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, the black turned out really well. And usually when I do prints like this, when I use the brayer and ink, the ink worked really great. And I didn't have to do very many test prints before I got a really nice solid line on it. Because sometimes you'll get more of like a model-y print. And that's what's cool about block printing in this format, is every single print is unique and different.
Yeah.
Every single one, even with screen printing, everything's unique. And that's what I really like about this. I also did one on green, and the green one, I did the green, it's a different kind of paper, and it's a little thinner in some areas. I just did it on green to jazz it up a little bit. But I really love it on this black and white, just classic, crisp, like block print style.
I can't believe how clean your print is.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thanks.
It is.
Thank you.
For opaque. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And how old do you think the carving itself might be?
So the pink blocks, I've had the same blocks for like 10 years, and I can still use them.
Okay.
This one's probably a year and a half old. I printed with fabric, a couple things with it on fabric, and I just haven't used it on paper. I wasn't really pleased with the way it came out. I didn't think it looked enough like books to me, but if I'm giving this to one of my library friends, they're going to see it's books and not like lockers or buildings, or, I mean, if it is that to that person, great, it can be abstract. But I just grabbed it because it was a book, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. This was fun. This was a lot of fun to go through and pull out something and make something I wouldn't have made. Like, you know, I wouldn't have grabbed the block again.
Yeah, I love that you like went back in your drawer, Amanda, and just like found something that you've already done. I mean, I have a drawer, several like that too, where it's like, I just don't even know what lives in there anymore. I'm glad that it's like nice to do that sometimes, rather than just jump into something totally new. You can repurpose.
Yeah. Well, I was inspired to make something new. I was going in my box to get out a brand new, fresh, clean block. And then I thought, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So cool.
Thanks.
Beautiful. Love it. And then do you just use the regular linoleum carver? The little...
Yeah, I don't have it within reach, but I use, it's just I think it's a Speedball brand. This is the commercial for Speedball. I think I just have the Speedball. I'm looking into getting fancy ones because I want to start carving more linoleum, and I have some nicer, pricier ones like saved on my computer, so I can like pull that with the lever and buy some nice ones. But for this soft block, the regular type of carving tools you use would be fine. Yeah.
So cool.
Well, thank you so much for that. Yeah, again, the opacity is stunning to me. Like a solid black print is just kind of, it's mythical for me. Awesome. All right, well, thank you. And Lauren, printing, what do you have for us this week?
Yeah, wow. First of all, just bravo to all of you. Yeah, I prepare to be underwhelmed. I mean, I thought of, so, okay, let me just say, the theme print, my mind went to something that I have been accumulating these past several months in my house, which is newsprint. So I have tons and tons of, well, I've been, indulging in these like New York Times Sundays. And they, so I have all this newspaper kind of lying around, and so I saw, I thought this might be a good opportunity to do something. They're printing these like at-home sections in this newspaper. So they're all kind of like filled with tips, household tips to like stop from going insane during this time. And one said, make a game with your paper. I don't know if you can see this, but it's basically like they're encouraging you in this little section to fold up your used newspaper and create little like hexagons. So I did that, and maybe I should just back up a second and say why I was attracted to this. I saw this, and this image immediately made me go, Settlers of Catan, which is one of my favorite board games ever. And maybe I will send you an image after this, and we can, I really want to share it with everyone, but I can't share right now. But anyways, we'll all get to see it later. An image of my family. This is like a game that we play. Whenever we can kind of strong arm the rest of my family, my brother and I will say, oh, please, like, let's play Settlers. We're highly competitive, and it's kind of annoying, but it's fun, I think, for everyone most of the time. Anyway, I just thought, yeah, it would be cool to make my own hexes for whenever I find myself in a group of 3+ people and without a board, I can just quickly make one. So so basically the gist of this activity was to cut up like a half-size sheet of newsprint, and I'll send you my little images that I took of my process shots. It's pretty simple. I'm not an origami expert. I don't know how really to do that very well. So my hexagons all kind of, most of them turned out like this to start. But then I got better progressively, I think, and kind of made several. So I'll have to send along an image so that you can believe me. But I basically created like a board. I folded enough of these to create my own little Settlers of Catan on the go board. So that's really all I did. And I have to also be honest with you and say there's kind of like a little trick at the end of this process. It's about 10, 12 steps to fold these suckers. Where it's like you have to kind of fold it underneath to create something perfect, and I never quite got it. I'm still learning. But luckily, for me, I have like a lot of newspaper around, so I can keep practicing, and hopefully, getting those hexagons to fit just right is very satisfying when you can do that. That's kind of it's a great feeling that you get when you play Settlers. If you're familiar with assembling the board, it's kind of satisfying just to like create the board itself before you even start playing, because all these little hexagons fit together. Anyway, suffice to say, I was not able to achieve that yet, but I'm going to keep practicing.
Wow. That's really cool. I think too, like if you were just to make a couple hexagons and hold one here and hold one here, they look perfect and great. But if you have your main goal is to piece them together, that's like another challenge, because you've got to get those just perfect so they can link together. Yeah. So that's cool. I really like that.
Thank you.
And Lauren, because newsprint is so varied in its own design, you've got so much to draw from already, so many different colors and designs and the way the print looks and the pictures and everything. So you've got that built in, which is cool.
Yeah, it is. It's like maybe someone can ascend to that level of like looking at a sheet of paper and going, okay, when I fold it, it's going to create whatever, but I'm certainly nowhere near that. So every time I folded a hexagon, it was like, that's cool. I wasn't like expecting that or this, or I don't know. I kind of gravitated toward weird like stuff that had just some interesting patterns on it. So I cut up the kids section first. But yeah, I mean, got some kind of really interesting ones. Like, yeah. Anyway,
that's great.
Yeah, you can create your own custom board that way. That is so cool. And first of all, yeah, Settlers of Catan, all the way. I love it. Such a good way to play. But yeah, just having your own custom game pieces, I feel like is just such a game changer in the way that you interact with the game. Like I love when I play D&D having little custom minis for my characters. I found some that were able to like 3D print them, and somebody else made some like little paper cutouts, and we got to color them in for one of our sessions. So yeah, I don't know, there's a lot more investment in the game, a lot more attention paid to it, and it makes everything a lot more special, something that you already love doing. Makes it really cool, yeah, to have a hand in building that whole world.
Yeah, that was sort of my thought behind this too. It was like, well, like that in this, you know, one of the reasons why I was kind of attracted to this in the first place was that the write-up over here said something like, look, we spend so much money on buying these like pre-made games. Wouldn't it be cool? Like you can totally do it yourself. And as a matter of fact, I was also thinking about one of the previous recent Saturday shows. Toby, I think it was the art theme. Toby was like whittling a small figure, and I thought like, yeah, that I could do for, you know, my thief on Settlers of Catan if I so. That's like my next foray, perhaps. Yeah. I'll have to see.
It'd be interesting to see the final product if you piece all them together. It'd be interesting because that's another challenge, I think, to see different pieces. You kind of piece it together and make it, you know, not just a fit, but also the design wise too. I think interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Your board will be a work of art at that point, and you know, yeah, that's very cool. Just having that something beautiful to look at while you play. And will you seal it at all? Do you think, like with Mod Podge? Are there instructions for that or anything like that?
Yeah, that would be the next step. I thought about that because right now they're just kind of floppy. So I think sealing would be a good idea.
Cool.
You can make a cute little carrying case for like your full set.
Absolutely. Maybe I can invest in one of those summer game lunch boxes and just have that kind of be my thing. I don't know. I'm gonna have to keep working on gaining the points for that. A little out of reach right now.
Beautiful. Wow, you guys. Well, thank you for joining and playing and experimenting and being creative as always. This has been such a joy to see how the interpretation and the manifestation of the print theme has come to life in each and every one of you. And I'm waving this in front of my face, not because I'm hot, but it smells really good. Like it smells like sage. Aromatherapy. That should be another theme, I think.
Oh yeah.
Wow. So botanical, we have reduce, reuse, and recycle prints, and we have the classic linoleum, which turned out so beautifully. It was amazing. So thank you for sharing all your beautiful work, and I can't wait to see what else you guys do in the following weeks. I think next week's theme is containers, so that'll be exciting to see what happens. Will somebody make a container? Will you make something out of containers? Who knows? All right. Well, thank you guys again, and I will see you soon.
All right.
Thanks, Ksenia.
Bye.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.